everybody, welcome to learning about the rhetorical analysis. This week the presentation is going to be a little different because I decided to actually do a screencast so that you can hear me talk through these slides, because the thing about rhetorical analysis is that even in face-to-face classes, whenever we do rhetorical analysis, a lot of the papers are done incorrectly. So I just want to go through this with you guys really fast so that you know exactly what I expect of you from the rhetorical analysis. So please pay especially close attention. Okay, so starting off with the homework review, we've got our ethos, pathos, and logos. If you'll remember, the logos is our logical appeal to logic, reason, facts, figures, things like that. Ethos is our ethical appeal, so that comes along with the author's credibility. If you want to establish ethos, you have to make the audience trust you and believe what you're saying. And you can do that through personal experiences, through showing that you did your research, all kinds of ways you can make the audience trust you. And then pathos is appeal to emotion, so anything that makes your audience happy, sad, anything that makes them feel any kind of emotional response. So your book starts off talking about this example with Bob Dylan, which is kind of a weird example, but it just tries to get you thinking about advertising. So they give you this example of the Victoria's Secret ad with Bob Dylan. And why does an iPod ad make you want to buy an iPod? Okay, so it gets you thinking about that. What about those advertisements appeal to you? And the way they do that is through the rhetorical appeals. Okay, they give you successful convincing of any kind is done through the ethos, pathos, and logos that we talked about. All right, so here's what you're going to do with your rhetorical analysis. You're going to find any kind of piece of media and you're going to analyze it. Okay, so you can pick an essay out of your book, you can pick an advertisement out of a magazine, you can pick a commercial, you can pick just about anything you want, and you're going to analyze it in terms of ethos, pathos, and logos. Okay, so let's say you see a really clever McDonald's commercial, and you say, wow, that really made me want to go to McDonald's. I wonder why. Well, what kind of ethos did they use? Okay, well, how did they make me trust them? Pathos, was there any emotional response? Well, yeah, the commercial was about a little girl getting a Happy Meal, and that reminded me of my childhood. That made me feel very emotionally responsive. Logos, what kind of facts and figures did they talk about? Nutrition information, things like that, okay? So that's basically your job. You're going to look at a piece of media and decide whether it's effective or not based on how well they use ethos, pathos, and logos. The thing people do when they mess this up is they will just write a paper and bring in ethos, pathos, and logos, okay? They'll say, tell me about the time that they went to Busch Gardens with their family, okay? And they'll bring in really good examples of, you know, the fun time they had and how that made them feel emotional. And they'll bring in logic, and they'll bring in facts and figures, and they'll bring in ethos, pathos, and logos. But that's not what I want. I want you to take somebody else's thing that they've published, whether it be an essay, commercial, anything like that, and analyze how effective it is based on ethos, pathos, and logos. All right, so here's just some examples I gave. And traditionally in class we'll talk about this, but basically here, Walmart commercial, save money, live better, okay? So if you were going to analyze this, do a rhetorical analysis on it for ethos, pathos, and logos, it would be your job to say, okay, I'm analyzing this Walmart ad, ethos, okay, ethos. How does Walmart make me want to trust them in this ad? Well, I can start off with the slogan, save money, live better. Okay, well, I guess by this ad, I can assume that Walmart's a company that makes me want to have a better life. They care about me saving money, they care about the way I live, etc. So I can trust them. They've right off the bat tried to make themselves seem trustworthy. Pathos, what about emotion in this ad? Okay, well, we've got the mom and the baby. Okay, and she's pushing a cart full of things that the baby needs. We've got a high chair, a car seat, you know, anything with babies, animals, makes you feel good, okay? Baby ads don't really make anybody feel negative, so they did that on purpose. And then logos. Maybe there's not a lot of logos in here, but I can say, well, it's logical to save money. They don't bring in a lot of facts and figures. That's the other thing about rhetorical analysis. If you find that you really like an ad because they really successfully use ethos and pathos, but there's not a lot of logos, that's fine. That's part of your analysis, okay? You can analyze it and say, this ad is partially effective, but it would be more effective if blah, 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 blah. Or you can say, this essay or this advertisement is completely ineffective because there's not enough ethos and pathos, it's all logos, okay? So you're analyzing it. You're taking whatever you want and saying how effective it is based on these measures. Reese's ad. Every day is your birthday with a Reese's, okay? Ethos, pathos, logos. How well is it done, okay? Political cartoons. Political cartoons are great for ethos, pathos, and logos, okay? Political cartoons and political advertisements especially really try to appeal to people's emotions, first of all. They'll give you, this politician is trying to hurt your child's, school system. And they'll give you facts and figures to back that up, okay? So anything like that. And you can analyze how effective it is based on these things, or how ineffective it is, okay? And to understand how well an argument works, you're going to ask yourself the purpose and who's making the argument. Of course, you're going to want to know, what's the purpose of this argument? What are they trying to get across to you? And of course, who's making the argument? And this goes along with ethos. Can we trust them? Okay? Who's the author? What's their motive? Okay. Now, effective arguments, we talked about ethos, we talked about establishing their credibility. Remember that you can establish credibility in a number of ways, okay? You can establish credibility by saying, this is a personal experience I've had, or if you don't have any of the personal experience, you can say, I found these sources that make me seem credible, okay? So while you're analyzing someone else's work, you can say, do they make themselves seem credible, and why? And if they don't, you can basically say that. They don't make themselves seem credible enough, this ad is not effective, or this essay is ineffective. Okay, we'll go over that, etc. Okay, so here's some more examples I gave you. Ethos, pathos, logos here. Okay, ethos, who is making this argument? Okay, we've got St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. St. Jude's is, seen as a pretty credible place. They haven't had any major scandals. And we know that they do really good work for children in cancer research, so we can say right off the bat they've established their ethos, we know we can trust them. Pathos, the emotional appeal, is obvious, okay? They're trying to make you feel an emotional response. And then logos. Logos might be the only thing that's lacking. This statement up here is pretty logical, okay? But maybe they could throw in some percentages, some graphs, facts, and figures, okay? That's totally up to you to analyze. Same thing here. Ethos, pathos, logos. It's National Influenza Week, okay? Flu.gov, the Center for Disease Control, is trying to make you get vaccinated. They've established their credibility. They want you to not get the flu, okay? Pathos, any kind of pathos here, emotional response. We've got a pregnant lady. We've got all kinds of diverse ethnic groups, okay? And then logos, the logic is get your flu shot. Okay, you have to get your flu shot. It's National Influenza Vaccination Week. Maybe they could have more logos. Maybe they could say, why you should get your flu shot, statistics on flu-related deaths, things like that. Okay, and these are just more examples, and you can analyze these yourself. Here's an example. I focus a lot on the magazine ads and the commercials because those are the ones people mostly choose to do because they think it's more fun, I guess. But you can definitely use magazine articles, or even your book has some really good essays. So this example, many adults remember a childhood spent romping outdoors, or at least being booted to the backyard after school. Today's tweens and teens spend more time in front of screens, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So you can analyze how essays work, okay? What are they trying to make you feel? Do they give you any kind of emotional appeal? Well, absolutely, right here off the bat. Many adults remember a childhood spent romping outdoors. Today, teens and tweens spend more time in front of screens. So they're trying to make you feel an emotional response. They're trying to make you nostalgic for the good old days and want that for children today. You know, and then go from there. How do they establish logic? How do they establish that you can trust them, etc.? Okay, and these are just more examples. Alright. So, alright. Not going to go over that. Not going to go over that. Okay, so here's your guide to writing a rhetorical analysis. Here's how I want the paper structured. And these are just, of course, your, preparation techniques, clustering, free writing, etc. if you need to do that. Decide on subject, purpose, and audience, of course. Okay, now, thing about pre-writing. Final step of pre-writing is you're going to write your thesis statement. Okay, so recall that your thesis statement is making your main argument. You can think about your thesis statement, start it off by saying, I will argue blank. Okay, so for a rhetorical analysis, people might say, well, how am I going to, analyze somebody else's work and make an argument? Well, here's an example. Okay, going back to the Walmart shopper app. I will argue that, and I made this a different color so you can know that you take it out at the end. So I will argue that the Walmart shopper image is only a partially effective argument because it provides successful ethos and pathos, but it provides absolutely no logos. Okay? Or, and then you go down, I just took out, I will argue that. So here's your preparatory thesis statement that kind of gets you thinking, what am I arguing? And then you take out the I will argue that, and here's your final thesis statement. The Walmart shopper image is only partially effective because it provides successful ethos and pathos, but it provides absolutely no logos. Okay? If you think the Walmart shopper ad is completely amazingly effective because it has equal ethos, pathos, and logos, then you can make your thesis statement reflect that. The Walmart shopper image is an effective and convincing advertisement because it provides successful ethos, pathos, and logos. Okay? Which is great, whatever you want to do. And then the easiest way, the way that I recommend that people break this down, is after you have your thesis statement written, you focus on ethos for a body paragraph, pathos for a body paragraph, and logos for a body paragraph. Okay? And then you break it down. Break down the ethos, break down the pathos, break down the logos. Okay? So once you have that thesis statement written, the major work of your paper is done. You've already mapped it out. You've made it work. Okay, it's great, and this people make the rhetorical analysis really difficult on themselves, and it's really easy. It's taking somebody else's work and analyzing it, and you know what you're looking for in your analysis. So, it's kind of hard to mess up, but people really get hung up on it for some reason. So, don't panic. It's easy. It's supposed to be fun. Greatest paper you'll ever write in your life. Okay. So then you start writing, of course, and we talked about the body paragraphs. You take your 3 main points from your thesis statement, you develop a body paragraph out of each. Introduction, first paragraph, go from general to specific. And then if you'll look at the PowerPoint, I just provided some introduction examples. Thing I like about introduction, and if you have me for 111, or if you read the previous PowerPoints, you know this, I like you to start really broad in your introduction and then work down to the thesis statement. So I want you to think of it as an upside down triangle, a reverse pyramid, a piece of pizza. It's a triangle, okay? So you start off with something really broad, and you go down into the thesis statement, and you should look at those examples if you have time. And then with your conclusion, I want to go over this. I'm running out of time on my screencast, but I will say conclusions are great. People don't like writing conclusions, but you should, because the conclusion is where you have the most freedom in your paper. With a conclusion, it's whatever you want to leave your reader with. The introduction has a lot more structure than the conclusion. You have a lot more freedom. In your conclusion, I say restate your main points, remind your reader of what you said, pretty much, and then you can do any of these things, okay? You don't have to do all these things, you can just do a couple, but these are good things to do. So summarize main ideas, highlight issues, ask a question. That's a popular thing to do. Predict the future, offer solution to a problem, call readers to action, okay? So you can do any of these things, and then I provided you some examples of conclusions just as your guide, okay? And then, of course, revise and edit. Don't forget to do that. All right. And please, please, please email me if you have questions. Review using MLA format, and you are all good to go.